Look at that. Lisa Zandy is like, I've never seen a rainbow in LA before. I'm like, there's our first one. It's been raining so much. How many people work in Web3 full time? Wow. That's amazing. I feel jealous. That's terrific. I think it's an exciting time, and we don't really get a lot of opportunities to work in Web3 full time. So that's terrific. What other polls can I ask here? Has anybody gone to any Outer Edge events? So great. So great. Are you going to introduce us or what are you going to do? What's happening? We're ready. I know, right? It's like
Ready to go? All
we did a
right.
little chit chat, handing out demerits and gold stars before. So David has a lot on the line. Right
Okay.
now.
Yeah. Woo. All right. Ready to go here. Thank you all for coming, for making it through the rain. My name is David Yoshida. I head up Web3 partnerships here at Razorfish. We are a pretty sizable digital marketing agency. We've been around for about 30 years and represent a lot of Fortune 500 brands. And we've been recognized for being on the cutting edge of innovation and technology. So we're always deeply invested in what's cool and trendy in tech. So obviously Web3 and AI are two major focus areas of ours. And we love to educate people, our brands, our employees, and anyone else who wants to listen to us about those two topics. So I'm happy and honored to have two amazing female powerhouses here, like two of the most experienced and innovative minds in marketing in the country, in my opinion. So
No pressure.
yeah, I mean, Angélic has done so much for Alo Yoga. It's incredible. Like I'm really interested in her brand. I'm very inspired by some of the things she's done there. You'll hear all about it. They've integrated Web3 very effectively and in a very innovative way in their business model and marketing model. And Danny has been in the marketing business for a few decades now. She's recently was appointed the president of our agency. She used to lead the Samsung account, so she's knows her stuff basically. So I'm gonna hand it over to them. Danny's gonna be doing most of the questioning, but I'll start off with the first question. So the both of you kind of just explain your background, like how did you get here? You both have illustrious careers, so just give like some brief summary as to where you're from and how you got here.
Great. You want to go first? Please go ahead. All right, I'll take the lead. So Danny Mariano, president of Razorfish, and I have been in marketing for a long time, as David pointed out. I actually started my career in traditional brand management. I was on a brand marketing career track, working in professional beauty and then working at Nestle. And around the time that the internet hit, a lot of people were saying in traditional CPGs, oh, that's just a fad, that internet thing's going to go away. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know. A lot of my friends are doing some pretty innovative, exciting work in the internet, and did a pivot in my career where I really went away from brand management and went into startups and pretty scrappy digital marketing. And for me, it's really exciting to be in digital marketing. It's the forefront. You're still inventing, creating. It's not formulaic because we're always on the front edge of something. And after moving to an agency where we built all the first websites for Nestle, which now in hindsight seems like amazing to have been a part of that, for their beverage division and for their confections division, really got into CRM or database marketing. And that was like my passion, because you could really see instant results and instant gratification. And so having gone through that kind of career track and understanding what it's like to work on the client side as well as on the agency side, found myself on the Samsung account. And I really wanted to do CRM on a big scale. I just didn't realize I was going to the number 5 brand in the world when I signed up for Samsung, and that it was like a global stage. And from there, have been on a rocket ship ride here at Publicis Group and Razorfish, leading the Samsung account, and now getting this opportunity to lead Razorfish. And I'm pretty excited about the opportunity because, as David mentioned, we're a digital marketing agency. We're one of the largest in the world. And it's exciting to be on the forefront and where we can drive innovation. That's our heritage all the way back to 1995. And I'm very excited about what's coming with Web3, what's coming with AI, and what's next in marketing and digital marketing specifically for all of our brands. And I'm really excited to hear about your history, because I think you're front and center in being one of those innovators who's out there inventing and creating the standard for what's next. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you got here.
Of course, and thank you. That's incredibly kind. Our stories are not too dissimilar, in the sense that I really joined the workforce at a time where there was a huge inflection point in how consumers and brands were interacting with each other. I joined on the Canadian side of things. I'm French Canadian. Shout out to a few French Canadians in the audience. I see hands up. It was at a time where basically on the retail front, folks in retail were still getting marketed to via catalog, and we're still getting marketed to directly in store. And, you know, I was on a great team for one of the retailers in Canada called Renfrew. And it was like, well, what about social? Why don't we give this Facebook thing a try? Why don't we start building a community, even if it's store-based for now, and seeing how that grows? And then simultaneously, it was at a time where the email team was maybe a year and a half old, right?
It was the best time ever.
Right, right. Building and pioneering. And well, what else can we do with email? And wow, what if we connected the dots between this new realm of social plus email and actually did things and events online that had nothing to do with the experience of coming in store? And that's how I really kicked off my career. I did that on the retail side for a few years. I finished my master's or my MBA and joined a management consulting firm. And then here again, in Toronto, the English part of Canada, there's a street called Bay Street. It's kind of like the Wall Street in New York. And it's where all the banks and financiers those types of companies reside, and was doing a whole slew of digital transformation for those types of clients. And although I have absolutely no passion for the financial industry, and you wouldn't know this because my background is accounting and I did my CPA, no passion at all, I really love the digital transformation aspect of it. And came to this point where I had this wonderful client who was a L'Oreal brand. And they were like, Angélic, can you also take on some of the go-to-market? What about cutting ads for social? What about helping us with our displays? And it was like, hold up. At this firm, you're the anomaly being a CPG brand. We traditionally do a lot of digital transformation or change management and then get out. But the client was so amazing and we got along so well that I, with the blessing of my managing partner, left the management consultancy and started my own agency. I had a business partner at the time. We ended up doing, 27 of the 32 L'Oreal brands in our portfolio. Again, similar parallels to your career. We did Nestle Canada.
Oh, that's great.
We did Adidas Canada. We did the City of Montreal. We did a ton of really, really great projects within the digital space. And after 4.5 years, I exited the business and immigrated to the United States. I had severe non-competes, as you can imagine, on the beauty side of things with the exit, and it was an acquisition. So there were stipulations in place, and I did not want to go internal. And so, by the way, there's a beautiful rainbow behind us. I think everyone needs to take a moment to appreciate
gorgeous.
the view that we have. And basically, yes, with leaving the agency that I had with my ex-business partner, Sephora came knocking and said, hey, we'll help immigrate you to the US. Why don't you come do some of that, but come do it for us at HQ in San Francisco. So I joined both on the social and innovation team to start, and then quickly progressed into running all of integrated marketing for beauty. Now I was on visas, and so being on a TN visa, again, if anyone's been on a visa here, anyone on visas? Okay, a few hands up. I know the struggle. They expire. And so my visas had expired, and I went on to work for Dolby, a lot of synergies with Samsung and the B2B realm, but started their B2C consumer division for marketing, and then went on to work for a friend, Katrina Lake, who started Stitch Fix, and finally got my green card. And this was over the pandemic. Met a few of you through Stitch Fix, by the way, hi. And finally got my green card. And for the first time since, parting ways with my agency, I was able to say, where is it that I want to go work? And when I think of the crux of innovation and the crux of value and what's really meaningful for me at this time during the pandemic, where I can't go home and cross the border to see family and friends that I care about, health and wellness is like the most important thing by far. And I wanted to be at a company that had health and wellness at the core of it, but also fashion and innovation, because those are two of my passion points. And so that's how I found my role and where I am now.
Oh, very exciting. What a great story. Thank you for sharing that with
course.
us. Tell us a little bit about Alo.
Yeah.
I think everybody's familiar with Alo, but for those that don't know, tell us a little bit about Alo Yoga. And we know it's more than a merch brand.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear more about how it's not just clothing and how it sits at that intersection of innovation, fashion, lifestyle.
Yeah. For us at Alo, we're, to your point, much more than just an apparel athleisure, or more than just that legging company or that yoga mat company that now all of you know. We're a wellness company. And so we are transcending a category where you might be on different paths in your wellness journey, and you might come to us for different reasons. You can come to us because you're looking for apparel during your workouts. You might come to us because we're your local yoga studio. And, above all of our stores, we have a studio upstairs where you can come and take yoga classes or breath work or you name it. You might also come to us because you're looking for clean and green body care or skin care. And so we have Alo Glow, which is sulfate-free, phthalate-free, made here in California, products like body washes, shampoos, skincare. And that might be your wellness journey on where you're at looking for clean products. And then on the flip side, we also have Alo Moves, and Alo Moves is a fitness platform that is subscription-based. And I like to equivalent it for folks that don't know, kind of like Peloton, but for yoga and meditation and mindfulness. And so again, your journey with us might be leggings. Your journey with us might be Alo Moves. Your journey with us might be clean shampoo. And all of that is part of wellness. And so that's how we show up in the market. And that's how we build our relationships with our consumers, because wellness at the core is so much more important than what a fashion trend or a fashion fad might be.
So before we get into how that translates into Web3, tell us a little bit about your customer base and what your consumers look like, and kind of what that experience and how you're trying to meet them where they are.
Yeah, our consumers overall, right, without getting into like specific demos, because again, after having explained kind of the different touch points, we have consumers of all age ranges, demographics, ethnicities, backgrounds, in different countries, you name it. But the one thing that every single consumer of ours have in common is that they are early adopters. They're early adopters when it comes to health and wellness trends. They're also early adopters when it comes to fashion trends. And they certainly are early adopters when it comes to innovation. And so knowing, where a consumer sits on the bell curve of kind of pioneer, early adopter, when it gets to mass, and then when it trickles out to kind of being phased out, ours are at the very beginning of the bell curve. And knowing that and tapping into that, and again, meeting them where they're at or where they want to go next and being a few steps ahead of that so that we're building, and when they're ready, it's there. That's been a shining light. And that's also why we've been in Web3 and how we've been able to go into it seamlessly.
So I'm curious if you were interested in Web3 and saw the connection back into Alo, or through your understanding of your consumers and being early adopters and then being in that space that brought you to Web3. Like how did you find your way to Web3?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say it's a bit of both. But honestly, I'm such a passionate person about this of the space. And so even when I was interviewing, I was like, what are you guys doing in Web3? What are you guys doing in gaming? What about, the metaverse? What does this look like? And it was like, not sure, but why don't you come on in and figure that for us, figure that out for us. So a bit of both, a bit of it being like the right time, the right consumer, and then heavy passion. And that's where I spend a lot of my spare time. And those are the communities that I'm a part of outside of work, for example. And so when you have your head of brand, that's also now your head of innovation, the journey down for us as a brand, as Alo, has felt really unique and really authentic because you're marrying two touch points that run simultaneously.
Yeah, I love that. We see a lot with our brands that we work with and some of the research that we've done at Razorfish that early adopters are a really interesting target audience.
Yeah.
And we did some research on virtual goods, and we saw that 70% of early adopters value virtual things, virtual goods, as more or as much as physical
Yeah.
And we saw also a stat that you have more people running around with leggings in the metaverse than you do in real life.
That's right.
So maybe talk a little bit about your strategy. I know you've had some really exciting launches and announcements this year. So would love to hear about how you're connecting everything you've talked about, from being a lifestyle brand and wellness to this idea of virtual goods being really meaningful for early adopters in the metaverse space.
Yeah, I mean, from a virtual good perspective, I think leaning in is just the next step for all brands, right? Especially with stats like you're sharing, 70%. How meaningful is that? Is that if we're leaning into our digital identities or digital avatars, and we want that to be a representation of us, then there is no other way but to lean into digital goods, digital fashion, digital art, whatever that may be. And so it feels like the natural next step in progression, just overall from a market perspective. Now, when we think of kind of the roadmap into how we went in, right? Because yes, there have been quite a few launches this year.
I know you've been busy. I don't know how you did it really in such a short amount of time.
Well, thank you. Our roadmap was, I want to say highly strategic, but also very slow at the same time, because we took the time to understand. We took the time to make sure we were not jumping on fads or jumping on keywords that were trending, or jumping on, the hype train, if you will, but really creating something meaningful for our audiences and for our community. So when we wanted to jump into the metaverse, we jumped into a 2.5, kind of like Web 2.0, 2.5 with Roblox, first to start, to really ensure that we could create a presence that was authentic and genuine to our audience and to us as a brand, and to bring folks along with us for the journey, that they could meditate, could do breath work, could do meditation in the metaverse, and at the same time could also, redeem digital fashion for the avatars and start exploring that facet. So that was how we first launched last February of 2022. Then very quickly, starting seeing more and more folks come and engage with us in the metaverse, and starting to ask us, what is Web3 and why is Alo in Web3, and how can I be more involved, and how can we lean into co-creation that you guys keep talking about, or co-ownership? That's really exciting. So a few months later, we started accepting cryptocurrency at checkout, so you can buy all of your favorite Alo in crypto if you'd like. And simultaneously, as we're educating external stakeholders, again, our consumers or our community overall, it was just as important for us to onboard and educate our internal community at the same time. So we also have the option for all employees to be paid in crypto if they so choose. And so that's also been great, because it's like you're walking the walk, in addition to talking about it, and not just jumping on the hype train for a quick PR stunt or a quick marketing because it's going to get you headlines. So those were kind of the next steps. In September, we launched our first digital fashion, we launched our first luxury fashion collection at New York Fashion Week. And with that, we announced that there would be a luxury experience in the digital realm that would meet that physical luxury experience that you were getting with the product itself. And that just so happened to be in the form of NFTs and a digital certificate of authenticity. And it unlocked a few different things that we can cover later. And that redeemable phase, or that claim window, started in February of this year. So basically gave folks time to shop the 3 drops right between September and December, and then opened up the claim window right away as soon as kind of those collections, the drops had been done. And then most recently, I'm like recollecting the timeline now, we launched, what do we do first? Okay, we launched a virtual reality store this year. So it's the very first virtual reality experience in Oculus, where you're putting on a headset, and all of a sudden you are submerged into this virtual reality that feels like an Alo sanctuary. We call all of our stores a sanctuary because, again, you could do yoga. There's this beautiful, cafes where you can get adaptogen lattes and everything LA, you name it, which I love.
The best.
All the LA things you can get. And so our sanctuary stores, but yes, you're putting on this Oculus, and all of a sudden you can shop through racks of clothing. You can try on in a mirror with an avatar. You can roll out a mat and take a yoga class on the rooftop. Then you can go to our beauty bar discovering again our Alo Glow system, but it might be a gua sha tutorial and how that's beneficial to you. Or it might be pressure points, or there's a fun face yoga tutorial. And so it's really amplifying the in-store experience with digital activation. And so that's been amazing. And then on March 1st, we launched a digital fashion collection in 1,000+ metaverses and social media
incredible.
platforms, really trying to get to a place of interoperability, right? So as the technologies get there, and as we as consumers have demand for it, right? What I'm wearing in the sandbox is what I want to wear on Zepeto, is what I want to maybe wear in my TikTok filter. Like, I want it to have it all. If I'm buying it, I want to be able to use it. I want to be able to represent myself and my digital identity as I so wish and so choose. And so kind of wearing Alo is a bit of a badge of like, hey, yeah, I take my wellness to heart, or my mental health to heart, or my mindfulness to heart. And you want to represent that. So that came along with our digital fashion collection. And it's been wonderful. We're less than a month in at this point, but the return has been great. And this week we're at Metaverse Fashion Week with Decentraland.
Oh, terrific. I know we've done some things with a lot of work with Decentraland, with Samsung as one of our other clients, like Bacardi.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting platform. Comes with challenges and audience, but it's definitely a great place for piloting, and terrific to see you guys participating there.
Yeah.
I'm curious, one of the things that we find challenging with some of our clients is how do we build the business case, especially this year when I think a lot of brands are focused on performance and making sure that they're meeting their expectations. How do you build a business case for, that's a very ambitious and robust roadmap that you just laid out. How do you build a business case so that executives see the value of the investment and you're measuring success? And what are the kind of KPIs that you're anchoring to?
Yeah, I mean, to be transparent with you and the whole room, I mean, my KPIs, because I'm leading brands, are often tied to awareness and affinity. I want to deepen my ties with my community. And so it's not about conversion. It's not about sales. It's not about a quick kind of hit or like creating, adding, what is it, like monetary value and then quickly pulling out. None of that. It's creating long-term, long-lasting relationships with my community. And I want to do that on all the platforms. I want to do that in person at my Alo houses. I want to do that in my stores. I want to do that on social media, but I also want to do that in the metaverse. I also want to do it exactly where they're at. And the business case is that if you're not doing it, the brands that are going to win. And especially when you think of the new generation of Gen Z, there's some even further interesting stats when you think of, I think Parsons and Roblox launched kind of a research paper just a few months ago. I think it was published on November 22nd of 22. And that research paper shows that, you know, about 65% of Gen Z think that their digital identity is as important as their IRL in-person identity, right? And then 70% of folks think that their identity is represented via the digital clothing that they're wearing. And so when you think of that, and when you think of, okay, maybe my consumer's not there, maybe the 15, 17, 18-year-olds are not buying from me today, maybe they are. But if you're missing out on that and you're not thinking ahead of the 24 to 30-year-olds in a few years, then I think you've missed the mark.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I know we talked about this when we were prepping about how there's also, I think it was Bain that sees that the age of buying your first like luxury and premium items is now as young as 17, which is 5 years younger for Gen Z than it was for millennials. So you do see extreme interest in luxury and premium items, and that they are learning about them and experiencing them in the metaverse.
Yeah,
for sure. I know it's not maybe a Web3 topic, but I do love this idea of being a social first brand. Yeah. So I'd love to hear more about that, because a lot of our clients, like, we talk to them about being social first, but it takes a real commitment to be social first. And some of our big Fortune 500 brands, like, that's a very different territory for them. Mm-hmm. They're not as nimble and agile, but I'd love to hear more about your thinking around social first and what does that commitment mean to be a social first brand?
Yeah, of course. So to even back up, we are a brand-led company, right? We're all about building brand, having our community at heart, and our values of mindfulness, mindful movement at heart. So brand-led company, and within that, we are a social first brand. So the way that we show up in the world is through social, and having social top of mind in all of our touch points. Even if it's an in-person activation, social is there. If it's a email activation, you want it to feel native to how you're already shopping on your phone, whether it be Instagram or whatnot. And so social is at the core of it. So that means if we're a brand-led company and a social first brand, we're a social company at the end of the day. And it's also how we started. We started out on Instagram. That's really how the company kind of blew up. And having that at the core of our briefs, of our integrated marketing campaigns, of how we go shoot content for campaigns or whatever that may be, how we work with our community to also be the face of our brand, right? In UGC content and partner content, influencer content, it all plays a really significant role. And we're not just saying, okay, we're all in this brief, we're all going to be social first now. That's not the thing. We design into it for it to be social first. We activate into things for it to be social first. So we live and breathe that. And that's how we show up authentically on our platforms.
And I know we tend to get a lot of influencers to our Web3 events. I'm curious how you think about influencers within that social first strategy versus, the authenticity of the brand, how the content is created, whether it's brand led, influencer led, and how do you think about that proposition? I think just as interesting, because I know we do get a lot of influencers who come to our events.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bit of a spicy take on this. That's definitely not the norm. I hate influencer briefs. I feel like if you're telling someone what to post on their channels, you've missed the mark. Again, you're telling as a brand someone to do something that feels constrained within their limits. And again, this is hard for brands because it's like, no, these are the talking points and it's this way we want to show up. But if you really build that relationship on a long-term basis and you get to know your community and your influencers and partners are part of that community, then you let them tell their story. And in our case, their wellness journey might be so different. Your journey might be so different than what your journey looks like and what your journey looks like. And that's the same case for our influencer friends, right? We want them to be able to tell their journey genuinely and letting them shine through with their authenticity and them shine through with how they connect with us or how they use us as a brand on a daily basis or how they come into our Alo wellness clubs and work out with us or whatever that may be. That allows them to tell the story and to really, really kind of love the brand as much as our community does and as much as we do because they get it.
So maybe you're going to probably want to kick me under the table later, but for what advice would you give influencers who want to work with their favorite brands? I get that question a lot of how do I get access to your brands? And what advice would you give them to kind of let their passion, their authenticity come through to be able to kind of present why they would be a good match for a brand?
Yeah, I mean, this one, no kicking. This one feels easy, actually.
I don't want you to get flooded.
No kicking. Only peace. Really, I think if you're really passionate and you love a product or you love a brand or you love a service genuinely, and you're already talking about it on your platforms, or you're already using kind of your platform to share that with your audiences because you want them to benefit from something the same way that you have, then that comes through. And the brands, I mean, we see it, right? The number of times that we're like, oh my gosh, did you see this TikTok video? Someone just leveraged our totes and made a full outfit out of it and has now paired it with items from the collection. This is, of course, organic, but let's reach out to them. Let's get in touch and let's build something that feels meaningful because they love us and use us and whatnot. And that's on the trend front. But similarly, it might be a yogi and they just got their yoga certification and they're telling, it might be, well, it could be that example. So a yogi that just got a yoga certification, they're wearing Alo because they look good, they feel good, they want to show their poses to their new classes and their new kind of audience, IRL, right? And they might be like, yeah, I got this matching set from Alo. And so we then hear from that via social or via the community. And similarly, someone else might be an instructor and at a gym and might say, hey, I give Alo moves to my clients to keep the training going at home. And then that makes its way back to us. So we see it and we love engaging because then the story is so much easier to say. So it might be, they might have done it organically for a month, 12 months, 36 months, whatever that may be. But when we are engaging, then it feels like there's something even more meaningful that goes further. They're getting paid for what they're doing already.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So when I think about social and I think about influencers, and then I think about AI. So AI is a big topic for us at Razorfish. And how do we start to think about this technology as an enabler, not to replace people, but really to supercharge what we can do and to get more personalized, and comes with a whole host of challenges and exciting opportunities. It's a big spectrum that we're investigating right now and spending a lot of time on. I'm curious if AI is a topic at Alo, and if how you're thinking about it, and if there's any experiments that you're starting to play with.
Yeah. AI is definitely the topic du jour, right? It's what everyone's talking about, even if it's not on the brand level. All of us have like spent time in Midjourney or Dolly or GPT, right? Like we've all spent time understanding. And it's interesting when you think through, how does this relate to our brands, right? I use it on email, and that's fine. I also use it for creative ideation when I'm thinking through, but I might also use it in a brief because it's helping me kind of move that further along. Or similarly, I think there's a big place for AI to play a role with creative. Not necessarily, and again, this is a viewpoint that I have that I'm sure many of you share and that you might share. It's not going to replace the creative, but it's going to give their creative superpowers to get to where they need to go. You might iterate on 3 things in the normal kind of scope of your work, but now you can iterate on 30 and then pick and choose the top 3 to then go out and build and shoot into or design into or do something beyond. So I think it helps a lot on the mood board ideation standpoint. Not to say that full execution will be out there. But then on the flip side, when I think of fashion, right, we've all seen how amazing platforms like Midjourney have been to create collections. And it might be like, I want to do Moncler Genius X Chanel, and then something amazing shows up. Or I want to do this, but in red, and it has to use materials found in the forest, and it generates X. And I think that ideation and what comes from it, and we're starting to see a few examples come down the runways. That's really exciting. And not to say, I know the question was for Alo, not to say that we're necessarily toying or playing with that specifically quite yet, but definitely testing and learning like many of us are. But again, not jumping the gun, and not leaning in because it's a PR stunt. And I want to be the first to market to say, Alo Yoga launches X with AI. That's of no interest to me, and will continue to be no interest to me.
Yeah, I love the idea of it being a superpower.
Mm.
I think we see it as an opportunity to redefine what good looks like in marketing and in creative. If we can move faster to better ideas and let the humans be good at what the humans are good at.
Yeah.
Especially for us, I think one of the interesting areas is how we can start to reduce like the manual kind of grunt work in some of our creative and copywriting that's just, the legals over and over and over again. Like, let's let maybe the machines do what the machines can do really, really well, which is, it has a limit, and let the humans do what they're really good at, driving the insight. So I like the idea of superpower. I might steal that.
Please do.
All right. I think kind of where I wanted to wrap up was just if there's anything next on your roadmap that you can share with us, whether it's product lines or in real life, or if it's digital, or anything that's, you see coming down that you're excited about coming next for Alo.
Yeah, really, really excited about new categories. So obviously I can't share what that looks like, but new full categories at Alo coming quite soon. So over the next few months, kind of some big, interesting changes on that front. Then simultaneously, I'm personally really, really excited about AR and VR still, and have really enjoyed the use cases in which we've done things in the past. I didn't mention I missed AR for my roadmap earlier, but we had partnered with Snap and did like a mirrored lens try on, and you could try on items anyways. But interested to see how that continues to develop and lean in for us as a brand. And then lastly, this aspect of how the blockchain enables loyalty, right? And how it enables experiences and a deeper, more meaningful connection with our community. So excited to see how that will play through, and not too dissimilar from our first luxury collection, which was the Aspen collection. We have a few things in the works which will hopefully show up in a really interesting way, both physically and then digitally, that I'm excited about.
Oh, terrific. Loyalty is one of my favorite topics. So I know, David, I think you're going to ask us about loyalty next. Should we segue right into that?
Sure. I think we're going to segue into Q&A for the rest of the audience, but I'll just start with the first one just to kind of get things going. So how can brands like leverage and utilize Web3 technology to increase commitment and loyalty from their customers to the brand?
Yeah, I mean, the Aspen is a great example, I think, of what you guys have done, just reading up on it on the press. So I don't know if you want to kind of share what it unlocks and how digital twins work.
Yeah, of course. So again, situating everyone, we launched our first luxury collection at New York Fashion Week. To give everyone an idea, typically a price range is, let's say, $150 for a piece of clothing at Alo. This is $1,500, and the materials are cashmere, and they're luxury, very unique, sustainably sourced, whether it be silks or vegan leathers or whatever you may be, made from mushrooms, whatever that may be. And so the build of the physical product is so premium, both in the design intent, but then also in the material makeup. And with that, we give you a digital certificate of authenticity, which if you're going to go on the resale market, right, you're going to know that this one of 100 or one of 50 items or one of 200 items, depending on the piece from the collection, is legit. And here's the card that goes with it. And then, or digital card and physical card that goes with it. And alongside that digital certificate of authenticity, there is this digital component, which is a 3D kind of mock-up of that luxury item. And that unlocks quite a few things. That unlocks access to Alo houses. How many of you have heard of Alo House, by the way? Okay, so they're like week-long, full-on experiential events where you can live and breathe all the brand values and do yoga, or, get this wonderful organic green juice and meal, or also have a party and try on all the clothes. Like, it encapsulates all the things, inclusive of like air seating and IV drips and infrared saunas and cryotherapy, you name it. Anywho, so that's the experience. This digital collection, or being a holder of the luxury collection, allows you to have access to that, which is, typically invite only. Now, simultaneously, it also unlocks access to our Alo wellness clubs. Have any of you also heard of our Alo wellness clubs? A few of you. Okay, so there's these very exclusive invite-only gyms that we have here in Beverly Hills. We have in Soho, New York. Next week, opening up Flatiron. There's the Alpha. We haven't launched that yet, Dead Press. Opening up in Flatiron, and then very soon, like Miami, London, Dubai. And again, these are invite-only. Again, social first for content for our partners and influencers. And being a holder, you get access to that. So it's like personal training. It's all the things I mentioned previously too. We do lymphatic massages, we do facials, we do cryo, cold plunges, all the things. So that's unlocked. Then you get a private client manager, which no one else has. So really kind of like a personalized stylist, private client manager that feels on par with luxury collection experiences. And then also limited edition and exclusive access, which haven't been kind of unlocked yet, but those are to come very shortly for holders. They're going to get access to something that others otherwise don't.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I think that's a real example of where Web3 technology can create ownership in the brand, but also unlock access.
Yeah,
that's unparalleled. And I think that's where we see at Razorfish for our brands, the opportunity in Web3. And we've started to dabble with some of our brands like Samsung and Bacardi and Grey Goose and MasterCard, where we're starting to see NFTs become that unlock of how that gets you benefits and how you can create collectibles. And what does that mean, whether it's access to an event or access to different types of services. The other area that we're really looking at is we work with clients that deal with a lot of media, and we're thinking about a cookieless future where we can't find people on the web anymore, which is coming.
Yeah.
And how do we start to think about how to operate in that environment when we also have wallet as identity?
Yeah.
And how does that start to create the narrative around how to activate against loyalty, how brands can feel ownership in a brand, which, Web3 is really about that, read, write, and own. That ownership part of Web3 is pretty exciting, I think, for people to have ownership in brands they love, and really right now can only participate with their dollars, but this way is a way for them to participate with an ownership component in like the brand ethos. And so we're looking at those kinds of avenues for our brands to start piloting and thinking about loyalty in a really different way.
So smart.
That is exciting. And it's nice to see examples like what you're doing and see that it be so embraced in consumers want that.
Yeah.
Super fans want it.
And before we even turn it over to the audience, I mean, the cookieless future, I'm all here for it. I'm here to embrace it. And you know why? Because I've been investing in brand. We've been investing in brand, investing in our community. And so if you've only been relying on pay to play, right? And you've only been relying on acquisition and quick churn out, but haven't been building a relationship that, again, Web3 unlocks even further, then those types of brands and those types of CMOs or heads of innovation, they should be shaking in their boots. Yeah.
All right. I'm shaking in my boots. All right.
Shake.
I think we'll take like 3 questions from the audience and just, you can direct them to either of them or both of them, but I think we've got quite an opportunity to get some incredible information from these minds. So yeah, who would like to go first? Well, okay.
Hi, my name is Evan. I work at CoApp and do a few other things. You mentioned loyalty in the terms of, this specific collection, but some other brands, Starbucks being the main one we can think of as building it into the entire loyalty program. Are you guys sort of looking into that as well?
I mean, we certainly are. Period.
Yes, full stop.
Yes, I think it would be foolish for brands not to. And whether you're going into it like Starbucks, again, huge fan of Odyssey, and kind of unleashing it all at once or going step by step. I don't think there's any rights or wrongs. But yeah, I think you have to think through it as you're building loyalty in this day and age. Yeah. Thank you. Are you guys appreciating the French candor, by the way?
Hi, I'm Kate. I do YouTube stuff, and I had a 2-pronged question that I didn't have until you brought the cookieless history up. And my friend Andres and I are in the content creation space. I've literally never heard of that concept at all, so would like to know your thoughts on that. And then my second question was, on YouTube, I do a lot of honest reviews. I would love to know your feedback that you've heard from like your metaverse yoga world stuff. I'd love to know about that.
Yeah. Do you want to take the first one with cookies?
Sure. So, cookies have been like a great device for marketers to understand consumers on the web and to be able to find them anonymously. And we use them quite effectively to do our modeling and audience segmentation and targeting. And as we start to see a combination of legislation, we see what Apple's doing with their policies on Apple. We see a future where and we've got big announcements from Apple, Google, and consumers really not wanting to be followed around on the web. As that happens, it starts to create challenges for marketers, but opportunity for consumers. So on the consumer side, I'm with you. As much as I want to have the data, because it makes my job easier.
Of course, same.
I do agree, and like you got to build value in the brand, and you got to create that connection with people and brands. But as we do that, marketers that are spending a lot of money using platforms like Facebook, like Google, that rely on those cookies to find you all on the web, to figure out what we're going to serve you and when we're going to do that. As that opportunity starts to change, consumers now start to get control of their own data, and they can decide how they want to use that. Right now, the platforms have monetized the information that we all provide based on our search behavior, clicks that we're doing. And that's why you get constantly served like, hey, we've got cookies on this site, right? So as that begins to change, our clients are now faced with, how am I going to spend my hundreds of millions of dollars on media to find my consumers that I want to be talking to based on where they're at in their journey of whether they're exploring, they want to buy, they're somewhere in between. And so we're preparing our clients for what does that reality look like and how do you operate in a world like that, where consumers now start to take control of their data and information. And I think Web3 is an interesting addition to the conversation, because without Web3, you're not talking about ownership and how you can create even more direct relationships with consumers on the web and using wallet as your identity versus using your email address, since the cookie will continue to diminish in its value as a marketer. But again, that puts the power back in the consumer's hands and how they're going to monetize their own data.
And
Do you
there's
agree?
also so many synergies with like Web3 here, right?
Absolutely.
So bring it all back. Anyway, yeah, well said.
So let's talk about what was the second question? YouTube?
Yeah, so I do a lot of Web3 project reviews and
Yeah.
company reviews, and I do a ton of them. There are 2 years. And so I would love to know your feedback that you've heard from your consumers and people who've jumped into the metaverse and done some
Yeah.
really good things. It's like, that's super freaking cool. I love that. So
Yeah.
just love to know the feedback. there.
Of course. And have you jumped into one of our metaverses, by the way?
That's my best part.
Okay.
I'm going to.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm asking because it's been probably the most meaningful part of my role is to read the reviews coming out of our metaverse activations. Important to note, like I said, when we started dipping our toes in the platforms over a year ago now in February of 22, we dipped in with Roblox, and Roblox certainly has a younger age demographic. And hearing the reviews and seeing the reviews on YouTube coming through us via customer service on the Roblox platform, on our TikToks or whatever you name it. It's been probably the most meaningful part of my journey at Alo, because all of a sudden you're hearing stories about, hey, when my 2 sons get into a fight, an argument, I give them some downtime, and Roblox used to be what I took away from them, and now I give it to them so that they can both meditate and be calm together. And I used to do that at first, and now they automatically just pick that up and go into, a breathwork session. And that feels beautiful, right? To understand that, 6 and 8-year-olds, or in this case, it's a 6 and 8-year-old, they're learning the power of mindfulness, of kind of, breathing in and breathing out, and how meditation can have positive impacts on their lives. So examples like that are quite beautiful, or examples of, uncles and nieces building a stronger connection, because all of a sudden the niece, let's say she's 13 years old, used to spend a lot of time when she used to go to her uncle's house playing Roblox on her phone. Well, now they could do it together. They could be like, actually, why don't you set up your phone against the wall? We're going to roll out mats, just like our avatars are doing on the platform, but we could do that IRL together. And now your 12-year-old is learning kind of a beautiful yoga practice and gets to share that with a family member. So yeah, it's been really wonderful to see how this has impacted the younger generation. We don't sell any products of clothing, and we don't operate in that space. But mindfulness and mindful movement certainly is for all age ranges. And as we've all learned, as most of us adults, all of us adults in this room, unless there's anyone under like 18, 21, we've all learned the power of mindfulness and kind of like focusing in to lead better kind of lives. And that's what we believe in at Alo. So it's been really, really meaningful. And I feel like these types of projects and the response that we've gotten back from the community is why I do what I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And by the way, I arrived late, so if we want to take more than 3 questions, someone's saying no. Okay.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm really curious how you guys are thinking about community management in Web3. I work in Web3, so I'm on Discord. None of my friends want to be on Discord, but my friends love Alo Yoga. So when you're thinking about like gated channels and communicate, like how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, so we're not on Discord. And although I am personally for many, many different interactions, my community doesn't have to be, and I don't want to force that. I feel like Discord is almost synonymous with Web3 at this point, right? And all of us are on it for different projects or different PFPs or NFT projects that we're investing in or collecting or behind. And we don't need to play in that space. And if it doesn't feel right for our community, then we're not going to jump in. To your point, if your friends are not there, but they all love Alo and they might all love Web3, why force it? That's just not how we're engaging. But we certainly are bringing that conversation into our main platforms, because again, I think it is the brand's responsibility in larger society to help onboard folks into Web3. And us specifically, we target a lot more to women than we do to men, right? Or we just serve more women than we do men, just by the nature of how fashionable and how trend focused some of our apparel is. And so, you know, when you think of the disproportionate amount of women versus men that have onboarded into the space, again, let's not put barriers to entry, and let's not force them over into a Telegram. Let's force them over into a Discord that just is not authentic with what they're doing now. Back to reaching our consumers where they're at. They're on TikTok, go reach them there. They're on social, on Instagram, sorry, TikTok social. They're on Instagram, go reach them there. They're coming to our website, let's talk about it there. And making that feel really comfortable too.
You think about building those features within the platform, like being able to message or anything like that? Or is it sort of like just what Discord has, I guess, that isn't available yet on social?
Yeah, not thinking of bringing that over to the platforms right now, but certainly open to it.
Yeah, and I would say that we have seen that some brands do work in Discord. It's, I think, back to what you said, you got to meet your consumers where they are and not try to change that, like the barrier of change may not, like the juice might not be worth the squeeze type situation, right? Like meet them where they are. Samsung, for example, we had an incredible launch on Discord, but that's a very techie, very different kind of audience, perhaps, than what Alo, like your core consumer base is. And it's also a global audience. We have a lot more people outside the US using our Discord channel than we do US based. So I do think it comes back to, especially with community management, thinking about where are your consumers, what kinds of conversations do they want to have? I think we see different kinds of conversations happening on different platforms, and the way that they're kind of clustering together and how they're thinking about that, where they're going to have different conversations. So I love that idea of meet your consumers where they are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one more question. Two more questions. Do I have a three? Okay.
Hi. So I have a quick question about onboarding the Web2 community onto Web3.
Yeah.
So I think that Web3 is great, but as you said, we need to meet the kind of consumers there. So what was the process like to onboard your Web2 consumers onto Web3? And then a follow-up question would be, when you were going into the metaverse, were you targeting your original consumers, or were you looking at a new set of consumers that were coming in to widen your touch points?
Yeah, to answer the first part of that question, actually, no, let me start with the latter part of your question. We wanted to reach our consumers where they were at, again, being early adopters back from kind of where we started the conversation. They were starting to kind of show interests in the space. And whether that was parents or older siblings coming into Roblox with someone else. I mean, when we jumped in, the fastest growing demographic for Roblox was 17 to 24. And that certainly, you know, reaches us in the same way. And so we wanted to be able to discern audiences that were there, because again, mindfulness and mindful movement, you should be able to have access to your wellness wherever that may be. And if you're spending 3 hours in the metaverse, then maybe 30 minutes or an hour of that could be wellness based. So that was really kind of the thought process towards it. And then actually, do you mind repeating your first question?
What was your onboarding process for?
Oh, yes.
Web2 consumers?
Thank you. I was ready to go, and then for some reason walked myself out of it. So the onboarding process for us, again, felt quite simple, because I think there was the benefit of having innovation with marketing. And so I know my audience, I know my consumer and my community so well, but I'm also really passionate about innovation. And so bringing it together, I wanted to remove all the hurdles and barriers to entry. So I don't actually use any language that is, you know, Web3 exclusionary. None of the degen stuff you'll find on our platforms. So you'll know that you have a digital certificate of authenticity. And you might not have known it was on the blockchain. And you might also not give a fuck. And that's okay too. But you might also think it's really cool and then buy the product because of this blockchain component. But wanted to just serve everyone at the same time and not put these barriers. Yes, we believe in educating and bringing our community along with us for that journey if they want to. So that information is readily available to them. But if they don't want to, I still want them to participate. And I don't want to put blockers. You don't have to jump through 5 hoops, log into your MetaMask, or like plug in your ledger and make like none of that. We did seamless checkout via Hypermint, which is blockchain checkout on your email with your email, and not too dissimilar to a checkout, you know, when you're shopping e-commerce or in store, you'll give your email. So it felt very seamless, and that kind of integration with transparency has fared well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Erica.
Hi,
I'm a Web3 journalist. I cover the space. And before I was a Web3 journalist, I was a local news journalist. And when I think about Alo Yoga, by the way, this was a great talk. I thought those were really great questions. And it's really clear that you understand the space really well. Because there are a lot of brands that are trying to go to Web3, but it's clear when they're just pandering and they don't actually understand.
Yeah.
And so when I think of Alo Yoga, I think it's very aspirational, kind of like what Victoria's Secret used to be before they transitioned to, you know, more inclusivity. It was like, you know, I look at Alo Yoga, I think of the influencers that I see on TikTok and on Instagram, and I look at them like the models and they're beautiful and like you want to be like them, right? And like you said, you guys have a lot of exclusive invite-only events, Aspen, but I think like a lot of the clientele for Web3 natives, like you said, like there are like the degens, and what really I guess drew me into Web3 was that a lot of us, you know, were outcasts, a lot of us weren't like, you know, I guess like we found a new home in Web3 because maybe we didn't fit into what Web2 brands or companies were doing.
Yeah.
And so what my question is, and I know that you're doing a lot already, especially like giving access to these normally gate-kept things, right? So how do you, I guess, reconcile or just help bridge the gap between being aspirational, but also transparent and relatable as well?
Yeah, it certainly is a journey, right? When you play in the wellness space, when you play in the fashion space, there certainly is kind of these industry norms and standards that have been imposed by the industry, I would say. And so slowly moving us out of that is certainly part of my mission. But I think it would not be fair for me to say that exists, right? When you think about fitness influencers, it is a lot of folks that you know present a certain way, and same thing when you think of fashion influencers. And so we always try to push the boundaries and ensuring that we're being as inclusive, as diverse as we can be. But what you're seeing on a lot of, you know, the channels is a lot of UGC and a lot of folks bringing that back to us, and we want to celebrate our community in all realms. And so do put a concerted effort in ensuring that everyone feels included and that they can show up. And then once again, you might come to us for different things, right? You might only come to us because this is your local yoga studio, for example. But to your point in Web3, how do you bring kind of this Web2 approach that has been exclusionary on certain parts? And, you know, our exclusivity is not to be confused with exclusionary. It is limited edition. And, you know, the way that our business works is that it's a drop model. So every 2 weeks, we launch a new color, a new collection, and it's very, very limited edition and very exclusive. And if you don't buy it, we're not going to make it ever again. So it is part of our business model. But to that point with Web3, you're now able to open that up. For example, Alo Moves is, you know, our fitness subscription platform, which is, you know, $99 a year. And, oh, sorry. Oh yeah, super affordable. It's $99 a year, but beyond that, you know, the 70.8 million people that have done yoga, breathwork, meditation with us now in the metaverse, have not had to pay that $99, which was pretty accessible before, but now it's free. Same thing, you might be in Decentraland this week and you might, well, if you happen to be there, you'll see that we show up in a way that is not fashion related, but that is mindfulness and mental health related. And again, that's for free, and sharing that content in a widely available way that otherwise is kept by Web2. So I think I see Web3 as reaching more community audiences and reaching us where we are, knowing the context of the industries in which we operate, and that we're slowly, moving the needle on and walking away from.
Thank you so much. That was a really honest and substantial answer. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Last question. So my name is Brian. I run my own lifestyle brand right now too. We're trying to build something special in the music industry. And because of this, I'm forced into the marketing role, which we only have 5 minutes. Everyone has to wear many hats.
Yeah.
And so I've been very curious to learn from you. What do you think is like an important skill set for a marketer? So chief marketing. I just want to know what you think of those skills to see.
Yeah, I think 3 skills. You need empathy. You need to understand and walk in the shoes that your consumer's walking in, and understand your community and feel what they're feeling if you're going to be able to speak to them authentically and genuinely. Next, you have to listen. You have to understand whether you're doing social listening, whether you're kind of understanding the larger landscape, whether that's leaning into data or whatever it may be, but also listening to like customer service, listening to feedback so that you can create value for them in the campaigns that you launch, or in the value proposition that you're putting together as you launch. So empathy, listening. And then the third one is curiosity. I think in my career, if I kind of extrapolate that out, the guiding thread is curiosity that has led me to innovation, because that's where my passions lie, right? In addition to kind of this fashion lifestyle realm of things. But the curiosity to keep learning, to keep digging, to learning new channels. I have a strong belief that Web3 should be part of all marketing, kind of distribution. And if I was not curious to learn, just as a human outside of Alo, if I was not curious to learn, I would have never been able to bring that to my brand. And so that curiosity and that ever incessant kind of need to learn more and not only be better, but just really learn more and dig more and find solutions and solves, I think will get you a long way, especially as you're running your business. You don't need the biggest budgets, but you need to stand out and you need to break through the noise, and your curiosity is going to lead you down the right path. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Thank you guys.
All right, so I'd like to take a group photo.
Yeah.
And then we could do some mingling. There's like plenty of snacks, like healthy snacks and organic. It's on brand. It's all from Erewhon, so it's pretty healthy. So we kind of should we go? Yeah, just and then
Do you want us to stay